All right, 7:34, Honickman in for Oakley. Let me go right to the phone, and Mayor John Tory joins me to talk about the gun violence in the city. Mayor, thank you so much.
Pleasure, Lauren. How are you doing?
I'm good. We haven't talked in a while, and I saw you yesterday. I listened to you. I know you wrote to the feds, Ralph Goodell, and you also wrote to the Minister of Community Safety, Correctional Services. Well, let's start there. Why are you asking the federal government to get involved in this problem in the city?
Well, this is a problem that doesn't have a sort of magic wand solution, Lauren. So I think what we need to do is get all hands on deck, and we'll start with our own government and get all the different departments together. And then I think you have to look to the other governments and say, what can we do? What things can we do? And so with the feds, half the guns that are seized in connection with these crimes that take place in Toronto are guns that are coming from the United States illegally. And so I think anything we can do working with the feds to tighten up the border with technology or more people or whatever, I'm often sort of mystified at the fact that when you come in from a vacation, they're very diligent about seeing if you have a bottle of wine in your bag. And so I think surely we can sort of step up the efforts. And I realize those people aren't coming in through the airport generally,
right.
But so that's the feds. We also ask them and the province to look at some of the money that they might allocate to help us with some of these neighborhoods where we've got to keep the sort of 10-year-old kids away from even thinking about getting involved with these gangs. Because let's be frank, the vast majority of this gun crime that we're sort of reading about and experiencing is gang activity, retaliatory activity, targeted activity,
right.
And so we've got to keep kids away from that. So I just think it's all these different things we have to get at, because there is no one thing we can do to sort of say let's banish this from our city.
Right, and if it is gang related, as you suggest, and I think I don't think there's all the evidence seems to point in that direction. What is it? Anything that what can actually be done? I mean, for example, your request to the feds about guns coming over the border. Okay, maybe that'll stop a few, but or whatever it's going to be. Is it just something at the end of it all we're just going to have to hold our breath and say, well, we'll make it through this summer or whatever it is, and just hope things die down?
I don't want to sort of suggest that by, holding our breath, I mean, that means we either accept this or that there's nothing we can do. But I think what we have to do is what we're doing. Bring all the resources and all the determination of all the governments and everybody else, the police services and so on, to bear on dealing with these things. A lot of people think because the police aren't in the headlines every day sort of rounding people up that they're not doing anything. The raids we saw at the end of last week and what you'll continue to see going forward with the police are the result of painstaking investigation that's happening every single day in neighborhoods with the bad guys, and then they sort of decide it's time to round some of them up. And so that work has to continue, and I think it's just a matter of doing everything we can. There's ideas that are now coming up as a result of all this that I think are very worthy of exploration, such as one Councillor Palacio had yesterday to say, in those places that have liquor licenses, where constantly there are people being found with guns and so on, and if they're in effect harboring and welcoming those people, then let's take away their liquor license, or at least have a hearing to do that. And these are the kinds of things, the gun amnesty, I'm lukewarm on it in terms of past effectiveness, but maybe we can do it better and get more people, including the relatives of bad guys, to turn these illegal guns in when they know they're being stored in houses and so on. So I just think it's one of those things where I wish there was a simple answer, but there isn't. It's a matter of determination and sticking to it and cooperating with one another to stem an ugly tide that we can't afford to have continue in our city.
One of the things, Mayor, that the police will say, and many people who support them in this idea is that the controversial practice of carding that is now not allowed anymore. In other words, police cannot do what they felt was very important in this as the initiative is one of the reasons. What do you say about that?
I say that there has arisen a great deal of misunderstanding about what a ban on carding means. What it means is that the notion that you can arbitrarily stop somebody who wasn't doing anything, who's not suspected of a crime, and just start asking questions to them is something that is going to be made clear that you can't do that. You never could under the Charter of Rights. And so now But what this doesn't do, Lauren, is the following. It doesn't interfere at all with the ability of any police officer to go up to any citizen who is suspected of being involved in a crime crime or in the course of investigating a crime and ask them questions as they could do before. It simply means that a lot of the stops, which frankly took place years ago, in a way that really was unacceptable, hundreds of thousands of people being stopped randomly just to ask them questions and so on, who weren't suspected of anything, that practice, it's not that it will be done away with. If people want to stop somebody randomly like that, they simply have to advise that person that they don't have to answer the questions. And so I think most people, when they really think about carding and what it was and what is going to be the state going forward, would actually agree. In our society, if you are not doing anything, if you're not suspected of anything, if there is no crime that's being investigated, then at least you have to be told you don't have to speak to the police.
Right. Joe, boy, I wish we had way more time. What about the deployment of police resources? And I know, for example, this week you were at Yonge and Sheppard talking about traffic and the fact that there will be police there, and we all agree that traffic issues are very, very important. But do you think that maybe we're in a crisis situation right now, and it's time to take police out of those areas, not put them in, and get them into the communities right now until we can get a handle on this problem?
Yes, I do. And I mean, one of the things that you can't always make clear in those kinds of news conferences is all the different aspects to this, but let me make it clear now. The officers that are going into those intersections are, in effect, paid duty officers. We're paying them when they're off duty to go and do that as an experiment to see if the traffic will move better. But at the same news conference, I reiterated something I've been saying for months. We've asked the province to clarify the law so that for that kind of job, monitoring and managing traffic, monitoring left turns and so on, we might actually be able to use non-police officers, in other words, some kind of special traffic officers, as they do in cities like Chicago and Vancouver, to do those jobs, because I really want to see the highly trained police officers we have applying themselves to issues of violence in neighborhoods and that kind of thing, as opposed to traffic management. So I completely agree with that, and we're taking steps to try and make it possible under the law to do just that.
Well, I at least applaud you and the chief and everybody, at least, and Giorgio Mammoliti. I applauded him earlier in the week as well for at least trying to do something, whatever it may be. And I know that you say, Mayor, that it's still a safe city, and I know you have to say that. But
because it's true, Lauren. It is still the safest large city in North America. The challenge is to keep it that way and take these trend lines and beat them down so that we just don't have this kind of thing becoming prevalent or in any way accepted as being just a part of the course of a growing dynamic city. It's not. I don't accept it, and we're going to do everything we can to stop it.
Appreciate you joining me this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Mayor John Tory.